Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before the clock begins, I just ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the provisions of Public Law 118-42. These are sections that clearly indicate that it is current law that unless the Secretary of Veterans Affairs receives approvals from the committees on appropriations of both houses of Congress, that these transfers are not to take place.
No objection.
Thank you. Okay. So, Mr. Secretary, in answer to Mr. Franklin's question about the cancer research and clinical trials concerns and the accusations that clinical trials in particular and research have been cut, those were referenced in a very disturbing article about indiscriminate staff firings and planned program cuts having a direct and negative impact on cancer treatment at the VA. You may recall that I'm a now 17-year breast cancer survivor, so this issue is deeply personal to me. These are leaked emails from VA staff that show that more than 1,000 veterans would lose access to treatment for diseases ranging from metastatic head and neck cancers and kidney disease to traumatic brain injuries. These emails further revealed that enrollment in clinical trials is stopping, which we all know means veterans lose access to therapies. And I'm talking about enrollment stopping. I've been working hard on this committee along with Judge Carter, and we've successfully increased funding for cancer research and clinical trials. So can you further clarify this? Have clinical trials enrollment stopped? Have there been any, I know you referenced reorganization, but in the process of looking at reorganizing, has enrollment in any clinical trial stopped, and has any research been halted?
Okay, let's take the two questions, and again, you and I have talked about this as well. No research, no VA research trials have been canceled, so let's take research that way. The clinical trials, and you made mention of one, so I'm assuming you're talking about Pittsburgh because that was the one that seems to have come up. This was one that was a head and neck cancer, lung cancer, that officials warned, this was the allegation that warned that hiring freezes had still not started. Here's the interesting thing about that. Hiring freeze had nothing to do with that because this was scheduled to start, was not started before the hiring freeze, had not been recruiting anybody. There was nobody in, so you can't stop something that hadn't started yet. This was a trial that had not started before.
Just to interject, was enrollment in that clinical trial or any clinical trial halted?
No, because you can't start, you can't
Well, was
halt
it
something that wasn't started.
halted or not begun as planned?
No, because this was already been planned. In fact, that particular trial that you're talking about right now, they were going to begin looking for participants in that trial this month.
Okay, well, there were dozens of emails. This is not rumor or innuendo. This is dozens of emails from VA employees in specific multiple locations from Pennsylvania to Detroit to Colorado, indicating clearly that there were research projects halted and enrollment stopped. So, and I know you were asked these questions by two senators from the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee over a week ago. So have you been able to get further information in relation to those questions and mine?
And that's what I just answered to sales as far
So
as
there's no clinical trial
No, the clinical
anywhere in the VA where enrollment has halted or research has stopped?
There is clinical trials that go on. This is one of our problems that we had, and I said earlier. There are over 1,500 clinical trials going on right now with no centralized supervision from
No, I know, and I heard your answer to Mr. Franklin. Has there been any clinical trial where enrollment has been halted anywhere in the VA or research that was being conducted or beginning to proceed that has been halted anywhere in the VA? And have you looked into that?
I think for any, and I'm not, here's my question, because you just made a very, and I'm not trying to avoid your question, but I just want to be honest, you made a very open-ended, could they have been slowed up or stopped for any reason?
Well, that's the act,
there may be, and that I couldn't answer the question. I'll have to look at your specific, because you've now opened the aperture so wide.
No, I'm opening, the aperture was,
it's not a hiring freeze
Mr.
issue.
Secretary, reclaiming my time, the aperture was opened pretty wide by this article where there were dozens of emails from doctors and healthcare providers involved in this research and these clinical trials that have specifically said that they were halted. And so, I mean, I'm not just making this up. These were from VA employees. So it's an aperture that, so since the aperture is wide as it should be, I'd like to specifically know the answer. Have you not looked into that concern in the week since the Senate VA
Yeah,
committee?
we have looked into it, and I think the specific question, especially that was the center of this article, again, was going back to especially as your concern as well, the head and neck cancer and lung cancer, was a program that was talked about, was not even started. So
I would like you
can't
to-
call it on a hiring freeze.
Okay, so
I
I'd
think we've
like,
got two different
I'd
things.
like you to get back to me then.
Okay, that's fine.
Specifically about have there, since your tenure begun, any halting of cancer research at the VA that was planned and any enrollment in clinical trials that have ceased
For any reason.
for
Would this
any
be-
reason
would this be-
and
would this be
for-
previous
and for
last year as
specific
well? The
reasons.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. I now give it to.
But I would like to just make sure that the
Gentleman from
secretary.
Florida,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Frank.
I would like the secretary to confirm that he will get me that information. before you
Gentlewoman's
move on.
time has been expired.
So you're not going to allow,
The
Judge Carter would
gentlewoman's time
certainly
has
let me
expired.
make
I am
sure
not
with the
Judge
secretary.
Carter, madam. The gentlewoman's from Florida has expired. I now give the floor to the gentleman
That is
from
not
Florida.
how this committee is run, Mr. Chairman.
It is under me, ma'am.
Well, you're not the chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate